Masochism, deriving pleasure from one's own pain or humiliation, has deep historical roots. Archaeological evidence shows ancient societies engaged in self-beating, where individuals whipped themselves to show devotion or seek penance. This practice was evident among the ancient Sumerians and later adopted by cultures like the Egyptians and Mesoamericans. Early human tribes also linked self-inflicted pain as part of mourning practices, where individuals cut their flesh to express grief and honor the deceased. The Aztecs performed bloodletting rituals to communicate with the gods and display religious fervor, believing the gods required human blood to sustain the universe. In today's documentary, we'll be delving deep into the origins of masochism, leaving no stone unturned and no back unwhipped. One thing's for sure, by the end of this video, you'll definitely know how masochism can help your daily life and maybe even bring the spark back into your relationship. Masochism in ancient Mesopotamia provides a glimpse into early self-inflicted punishment and the pleasure derived from pain. Cuneiform tablets, statues, and relics reveal rituals where self-inflicted pain is featured in religious and social contexts. Around 2500 BC, the Sumerians, one of Mesopotamia's earliest civilizations, included self-flagellation in their religious ceremonies to appease and communicate with the gods. Priestess Enheduanna documented rituals involving self-punishment to invoke the goddess Inanna's favor. Texts like the Lamentations of Sumer and Akkad suggest people engaged in self-harm and penance seeking divine assistance. This period also saw pain used in judicial punishments, reflecting a societal view of pain as both punitive and purifying. By 1800 BC, the Babylonian civilization, which succeeded the Sumerians, had legal codes such as the Code of Hammurabi. Some laws prescribed flogging as punishment, indicating the acceptance of pain infliction in society. Artistic depictions from this era show scenes of punishment and ritualistic self-harm, suggesting a cultural perception of pain intertwining the sacred and mundane. Mesopotamian mythology, including the Epic of Gilgamesh, highlights various forms of suffering, both inflicted and self-imposed, showing that deriving value from pain was deeply embedded in their culture. Deities played a crucial role in ancient Mesopotamian masochistic practices. Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, was often invoked through self-punishment. Her descent to the underworld, depicted in ancient texts, symbolizes suffering and rebirth, highlighting the cultural significance of pain and redemption. Rituals involved participants enduring physical trials to honor deities and seek favor. The Temple of Eker, dedicated to Enlil, saw priests engage in self-inflicted pain. Sacrifices, including bloodletting, were believed to purify the soul and earn divine favor. The Assyrians, a later Mesopotamian civilization, also practiced masochism. Thus, unlike modern views of masochism, which are focused on individual pleasure, ancient Mesopotamian masochism was rooted in religious and communal life. Pain and suffering were seen as paths to spiritual enlightenment, divine favor, and social coherence. The term masochism originates from Austrian writer Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, officially recognized in the late 19th century, who depicted sexual fantasies involving pain and humiliation in his writings. But the activity and mindset of masochism itself has much deeper roots, and it had an important place in ancient Greece. Yes, Greek mythology and literature are replete with tales of masochism. One early example is the legend of Sisyphus, who defied the gods and was condemned to eternally roll a boulder uphill, only for it to roll back down each time. Although the punishment was not self-inflicted, the endless struggle symbolizes psychological masochism, where repeated suffering becomes part of one's identity. Historical records also reveal physical masochism in ancient Greece. Most well known, probably, are the Spartans, who actively engaged in pain-enduring rituals. Spartans were renowned for their rigorous training and strict discipline. From a young age, boys entered the agage, a state-sponsored education and training program designed to mold them into formidable warriors. The agage included endurance and pain tolerance elements to build physical and mental resilience. Boys were encouraged to endure hardships without complaint, fostering toughness. They underwent whipping rituals during the festival of Artemis Orthia to demonstrate bravery and stoicism in the face of pain. This ritual was ingrained in their culture, seen not as punishment, but as a test of strength and character. Adult Spartans also engaged in rigorous physical exercises and sparring focused on pain endurance, ensuring soldiers were battle-ready and unafraid of suffering. These practices reflect Spartan society's highly militarized nature, where discipline, endurance, and resilience were paramount. The emphasis on enduring pain wasn't just about physical strength, but also about demonstrating loyalty to Sparta. In battle, Spartans were renowned for withstanding severe injuries and continuing to fight. This resilience was cultivated through their acceptance and even embrace of pain. A notable example is the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC, where King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans held off the vastly larger Persian army. Their ability to sustain wounds and maintain their fighting spirit was a testament to their training. Spartan women, though not subjected to the same physical trials as men, were also expected to exhibit toughness. They encouraged their husbands and sons to be brave and resilient, often telling them to return from battle either with their shield or on it, implying victory or death. This cultural valorization of pain and endurance extended to virtually all aspects of Spartan life, influencing their societal norms and interactions with other Greek states. In Athens, on the other hand, philosopher Diogenes practiced self-imposed austerity, living in a large ceramic jar and embracing hardships, rejecting material comforts. His lifestyle exemplifies voluntary psychological masochism, showcasing asceticism and self-discipline. The cult of Dionysus involved frenzied rituals where participants experienced ecstasy, often accompanied by self-inflicted pain, aiming at achieving a transcendent state where physical suffering facilitated spiritual enlightenment. The Eleusinian mysteries, honoring Demeter and Persephone, involved initiation rites with physical and mental trials, believed to lead to a deeper understanding of life's mysteries and an afterlife reward. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca preached endurance of suffering as a virtue, encouraging acceptance of pain without complaint as a path to inner peace and moral fortitude. Ancient Greece's documentation and portrayal of masochism through its mythology, rituals, theological practices, and philosophical teachings reveal a complex relationship with pain and suffering, serving as means for personal growth, spiritual enlightenment, and societal cohesion. Additionally, the practice of pederasty, common in Greek society, sometimes involved an older man inflicting physical discipline on his younger partner, reflecting elements of masochism in social relationships. The relationship dynamics were complex, blending affection and pain, illustrating how pain factored into personal growth and mentorship. Pain was not merely punitive, but essential for achieving higher states of being, whether in spiritual enlightenment, physical prowess, or moral fortitude. And while the Greeks loved pain and pleasure, the mindset didn't fade in the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, religious asceticism and self-flagellation emerged as early expressions of masochistic tendencies. Medieval Christians, especially hermits and monks, often practiced physical self-punishment for penance and spiritual purification, emulating Christ's suffering to atone for sins and seek divine grace. Self-flagellation, involving whipping oneself to draw blood and endure pain, was common, particularly during crises like the Black Death in the mid-14th century. Flagellant groups traveled, publicly whipping themselves to appease God's wrath. Other self-inflicted pains included wearing hair shirts with coarse fibers that irritated the skin and silices, chains or cords constricting limbs. These acts, deeply rooted in the religious and cultural context, were not mere self-harm, but reflected a complex interplay between body and spirit, agony and ecstasy, in the quest for spiritual renewal. Medieval religious rituals with masochistic elements show how pain and suffering were sanctified and integrated into daily life as pathways to spiritual enlightenment. Saint Dominic Loricatus, a notable figure from the Middle Ages, demonstrated extreme masochistic practices. His name, Loricatus, meaning armored, derived from the chainmail shirt he wore, causing him constant discomfort. He performed rigorous penance, reportedly self-flagellating 300,000 times over 6 days. St. Dominic's severe asceticism reflected broader trends among medieval Christians seeking to share in Christ's passion. These practices were part of larger religious movements promoting communal piety and individual devotion. Self-punishment extended beyond clergy. Lay people also engaged in public penance, showing societal acceptance and reverence for this devotion. Crosses were inscribed on clothing and even branded onto flesh as marks of faith and penance. Fasting, another prevalent practice, often took masochistic forms. Extended fasting was seen as purging physical desires to attain spiritual purity. Women mystics like Saint Catherine of Siena embraced extreme fasting, some reportedly surviving solely on the Eucharist for long periods. The Church's endorsement of these practices during the Middle Ages was pivotal for their widespread acceptance. Papal authorities often organized mass public acts of penance during famines, plagues, and wars. Religious holidays and festivals sometimes featured processions of flagellants, adding a communal aspect to these devotions. The belief in redemptive suffering was deeply ingrained in the medieval psyche. The idea that pain and mortification of the flesh could cleanse the soul and bring one closer to divine grace was a widely accepted cultural tenet. Monastic buildings often included spaces for self-mortification. Inquisitions and trials frequently prescribed physical penance for absolution. Theologians and mystics like Saint Bernard of Clairvaux further disseminated and reinforced these ideas, making self-inflicted pain a respected form of piety. And before we hop on to modern times, here's the good old Japan with its always weird masochistic history. I can guarantee you that you're not getting this kind of history anywhere else. In ancient Japan, during the Heian period from 794 to 1185 AD, the samurai code, Bushido, viewed pain as a pathway to mental and moral fortitude. Samurai warriors adhering to this code often engaged in self-discipline involving physical pain. Ritual suicide, seppuku, is a notable practice where a samurai would voluntarily suffer a painful death to restore honor. Seppuku, performed with a ceremonial dagger before witnesses, was regarded as the utmost expression of bravery and loyalty. The samurai code of Bushido, despite its stringent demands, became central to Japanese identity and influenced various societal aspects. Samurai often performed seppuku not only for personal honor, but also to uphold family loyalty and feudal obligations. This self-sacrifice demonstrated ultimate devotion, integrating pain into the Japanese ethos. Emphasis on suffering is also seen in the Japanese art of tattooing, irezumi, which dates back to at least the Jomon period from 10,000 BC to 300 BC. Tattoos served both decorative and spiritual purposes, and the process of receiving an irezumi was excruciatingly painful. This pain was considered a necessary part of transformation and spiritual journey. Another instance of masochistic tendencies appears in the samurai's training methods. Young samurai underwent rigorous physical training, including martial arts, exposure to extreme cold, and forced marches over long distances. This conditioning hardened their bodies and minds, ensuring constant battle readiness. Similarly, in spirituality, the ascetic practices of Shugendo monks were rooted in the belief that physical deprivation and pain led to purer spiritual insights. These monks lived in remote mountains, enduring freezing temperatures, hunger, and physical exhaustion in their quest for enlightenment. In addition to seppuku and ascetic practices, masochistic elements prominently featured in medieval Japanese literature. The Tale of the Heike, an epic account of the Genpei War from 1180 to 1185 AD, centers on themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and the fleeting nature of life. Characters endured immense suffering, with pain and affliction portrayed as noble attributes. This narrative further cemented the idea that enduring pain was a virtue, a sentiment resonating throughout Japanese culture. Pain and masochism permeated various aspects of ancient Japanese culture, including legal and disciplinary practices. In feudal Japan, punishments often involved physical suffering. Criminals faced severe corporal punishment, public humiliation, or torture to enforce obedience and deter crime, reflecting the cultural acceptance of pain as a disciplinary tool. In education, teachers used physical punishment to instill discipline and respect, believing that enduring pain was part of learning and character building. Parents employed similar methods at home, reinforcing the notion that pain contributed to moral and personal development. Pain and endurance were also celebrated in festivals and public spectacles. Events like Kyoto's Gion Matsuri featured displays of physical endurance and pain tolerance, serving as entertainment and communal bonding. The tea ceremony, or chinoyu, though serene, embodied disciplined endurance, with practitioners undergoing rigorous training and strict adherence to form, often resulting in physical and mental strain. These examples illustrate how pain interwove with notions of honor, devotion, and spiritual growth, forming a unique cultural perspective on masochism in ancient Japan. And now that we've crossed the always intriguing Japan, the 18th and early 19th centuries strongly hinted at the phenomenon through practices and literature. Discussions on masochistic behavior were often cloaked in religious and philosophical discourse. The 18th century concept of sublime suffering suggested that pain or humiliation could lead to a transcendent state. Romantic literature, including works by Marquis de Sade, explored domination and submission themes. Religious penance practices mirrored masochistic themes, with self-flagellation and other forms of self-imposed suffering seen as paths to spiritual purity and piety. The 19th century's evolving psychological understanding began categorizing such behaviors. This period saw the rise of sexology as a scientific field, with Richard von Krafft-Ebing's Psychopathia Sexualis being crucial in classifying various sexual desires, including masochism. The late 19th century saw a groundbreaking acknowledgement of masochism as a psychological and sexual phenomenon. Before this, masochistic behaviors were viewed through morality, spirituality, and philosophy. Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, whose name inspired the term, depicted erotic submission in his literary works, notably Venus in Furs. This work highlighted the connection between pleasure and pain, competition and degradation. Religious narratives of the 18th century often depicted suffering as a path to redemption, inadvertently mirroring masochistic tendencies. Literature and societal norms of the period reflected a complex relationship with pain and sexuality. Early psychiatric evaluations began addressing these behaviors systematically, leading to the field of sexology. Renowned sexologist Richard von Krafft-Ebing's Psychopathia Sexualis was among the first comprehensive studies to categorize masochism, shifting the view from self-imposed suffering as an abstract, moralistic endeavor to understanding it as part of human sexual experience. Over time, the understanding of masochism has evolved to include behaviors where individuals derive pleasure from their own pain or humiliation. Today, masochism is often part of consensual BDSM, meaning bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism practices. The DSM-5 classifies sexual masochism disorder when the behavior causes significant personal distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. Advancements in psychology have led to a more nuanced understanding of masochistic behaviors, differentiating between pathological and non-pathological forms. Many people practicing BDSM today emphasize the consensual, safe, and sane nature of these activities. Clinical studies show that individuals involved in consensual BDSM have psychological profiles similar to the general population, contradicting early perceptions of masochism as inherently linked to mental illness. The rise of the internet has created communities where individuals can explore masochistic interests safely and with like-minded people, contributing to the destigmatization of masochistic practices. Discussions about masochism have evolved significantly since the days of Sacher-Masoch. Previously viewed primarily through a pathological lens, masochistic tendencies are now recognized as existing on a spectrum from mild to intense. Within consensual contexts, these desires can enhance sexual and emotional experiences. Research from the Journal of Sexual Medicine shows that participants engaged in consensual BDSM report higher levels of relationship satisfaction and personal well-being. This is partly due to the open communication, trust, and clear understanding of boundaries required, leading to deeper emotional connections. Pop culture has also influenced this evolving perception. Media representations, though not always accurate, have mainstreamed these practices, reducing stigma. However, misunderstandings persist, particularly when BDSM is wrongly equated with abuse or violence. Laws surrounding masochistic practices vary by jurisdiction. Some legal systems have specific regulations to ensure participant safety and well-being. For instance, in some areas, clearly defined consent is crucial for distinguishing BDSM activities from criminal acts. Educational resources and workshops have emerged to inform individuals about safe practices, emphasizing the importance of consent and communication. Researchers analyze deeper motivations behind masochistic behaviors, considering past trauma, personality traits, and biological predispositions. Some theories link masochism to endorphin release, acting as a natural painkiller and mood enhancer. Not all individuals with masochistic tendencies have a history of trauma or psychological issues. Many find satisfaction and fulfillment in these practices without underlying pathology. Group dynamics in BDSM communities often focus on mutual respect and ethical guidelines, emphasizing informed consent and emotional safety. Workshops, seminars, and online forums provide spaces for education and support, helping individuals navigate their interests responsibly. The presence of certified sex therapists specializing in kink and BDSM topics offers resources for professional guidance. Societal attitudes towards masochism remain mixed. Misconceptions and negative stereotypes persist, often fueled by sensationalized media portrayals. Public education and open dialogue are essential for challenging these biases and promoting accurate understanding. And before we wrap it all up, here's masochism in the animal kingdom. Masochism, the tendency to derive pleasure from pain, is observed in various animal species. This phenomenon often serves evolutionary purposes linked to behaviors enhancing survival or reproductive success. Male fruit flies engage in self-destructive behaviors like self-scratching during mating, releasing pheromones deterring other males, thereby increasing their mating success. Female tarantula hawk wasps sting tarantulas to paralyze them, and exhibit self-harming behaviors like biting their own legs while laying eggs inside the paralyzed tarantula, ensuring a secure environment for their offspring. Male common frogs display masochistic behavior during mating seasons, crowding around females in mating balls, often getting injured in the process. This aggressive behavior increases their chances of securing a mate, demonstrating an evolutionary advantage. Worker bees exhibit self-sacrificing behaviors when defending their hive. They sting intruders, knowing this will result in their death, as their barbed stingers get lodged in the attacker's skin. This act of self-sacrifice protects the hive, ensuring the colony's survival. Cleaner fish feed on parasites found on larger client fish, enduring aggressive reactions while cleaning them. This risky interaction provides food for the cleaner fish and health benefits for the client fish, signifying a mutualistic relationship where self-risk is outweighed by survival advantages. The male redback spider demonstrates extreme self-sacrificing behavior during mating. Males somersault, placing their abdomen directly over the female's mouthparts, essentially offering themselves as a meal. Studies suggest this increases the likelihood of successful sperm transfer and reduces the chance of the female mating with other males, enhancing the male's reproductive success despite the fatal outcome. In these cases, masochistic behavior in animals reflects a complex interplay between pain, pleasure, and evolutionary benefits, highlighting that seemingly self-destructive actions can have significant adaptive value. And that's it with masochism. Be sure to watch all of our documentaries, which should appear on the screen just about now. There's only 2 on the screen, but you can find more from our channel page. Let us know which documentaries you want to see next in the comment section below, and be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. History, but fast.